I can't think of many countries in the world where Christians suffer worse treatment than they do in Pakistan. In places like Iran and North Korea, Christians are persecuted simply because they love Christ and want to be free to worship Him without government interference. The Voice of the Martyrs is dedicated to serving the persecuted church worldwide, and VOM is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year with the release of a new book and a feature-length film about its founders. Award-winning VOM radio host Todd Nettleton joins us now with more. VOM has a new book out, Todd, called Wurmbrand, Tortured for Christ, The Complete Story. So how does this differ from the book Tortured for Christ, and why did you feel you needed to do it?
Well, Voice of the Martyrs is in the process of celebrating our 50th anniversary as a ministry. So we're honoring the legacy of our founders, Pastor Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand. If you wanted to know Pastor and Sabina's full story before this book, you really had to read 3 books. You had to read Tortured for Christ and In God's Underground by Pastor Wurmbrand, and then you had to read a book called The Pastor's Wife by Sabina Wurmbrand. So this book brings both of their stories into the covers of one book, and it's completely rewritten. The language is very fresh and modern, so it is really written for today's reader. You know, parts of it read like a great love story between Richard and Sabina. Parts of it read like a spy novel as they were active in the underground church and Bible smuggling and other illegal activities in communist Romania. So this is really a great telling of their story for today's reader.
What do you want readers to take away from the book? What's the message you're hoping to convey?
One of the things that I think every reader will do as you read through these stories and as you get to the end of the book is you're forced to ask yourself the question, okay, what would I do? What would I do if the government came in and closed down my church and said it's illegal for Christians to meet together? What would I do if they threw me in jail and even tortured me because I kept telling people about Jesus?
Todd, I understand you also have a new full-length feature movie out about Pastor Wurmbrand. Tell us about that one.
Tortured for Christ, the movie, will be in theaters on March the 5th across the country. It's a one-night only theatrical release. We're going to follow up with some screenings in churches, and then eventually later this year there will be a DVD available. This is, again, a part of our 50th anniversary celebration, honoring the legacy of Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand. The movie was filmed in Romania with Romanian actors, and it is a wonderful telling of the story. Artistically, it's very well done. But again, it's a powerful story of exemplary Christianity. People who followed Christ, even when it cost them something, even when they went to prison, even when they were being tortured. And that challenges the viewer to think about, okay, what would I do in those situations?
This is a first for VOM. I understand the movie was actually shot and produced in Romania.
The movie was filmed in Romania, including scenes that were shot inside Jilava Prison. Jilava Prison is one of the prisons where Richard was held in solitary confinement. It's also a prison where Sabina spent a part of her 3 years incarcerated. And so it was very significant to be filming in the old solitary confinement wing and look down the hallways there and say, okay, one of these cells is the cell that Richard Wurmbrand was held in. The other thing about filming in Romania with Romanian actors and actresses was Richard Wurmbrand is really a national hero in Romania. And so the Romanian actors took it very personally to tell his story and to tell it well.
I'm sure VOM previewed the film with some audiences. What was their reaction?
You know, there hasn't been any negative reaction from anyone who has viewed the film that I'm aware of. The reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. Not only that artistically it's very well done, it is a great film. The ability of capturing the old 1930s, the old cars and trains and the set and all of that is very well done. But also it's a very powerful story.
And finally, what do you want people to understand about Pastor Wurmbrand and the persecuted church and VOM?
Well, one of the exciting things about having a new book and having this film is the number of people who will meet persecuted Christians for the first time through this. You know, they're not aware that persecution is going on, and they'll be confronted by this story of Pastor and Sabina. I think the thing that we want to show people is that Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand lived an exemplary form of Christianity. They served the Lord no matter the cost, no matter the price, no matter the suffering that was before them. They saw the eternal value of the kingdom of God, and they weighed everything in light of that eternal value, not in light of temporal things or suffering here on earth. That's something that inspires me. I think it will inspire every Christian who sees this film and reads this book. What does it mean to live our lives in light of eternity? Richard and Sabina examined that. They did that. They lived it out. And so we want to inspire people with their example so that Christians everywhere in the U.S. and around the world can have that same perspective, that whatever we're going through here on earth is nothing in light of eternity with Christ, in light of the glory of Christ, in light of His sacrifice to purchase us. Our measly suffering here on earth doesn't even compare to that. And so that's why we can have that joy of the Lord in spite of suffering, because we've grabbed a hold of that eternal perspective. And Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand surely exemplify that, and we want their story to inspire thousands and thousands of Christians around the world.